Right. Welcome to our second Tarot for Creative Spirits ride along. If you're watching the replay, this is a quick reminder. You might want to grab some easy art supplies, whatever's handy. You do not need to rummage in a closet or go to an art store. You can borrow your child's art bucket, crayons or markers or colored pencils. If you ever do a little collaging and you have some scraps, some glue sticks, scissors, feel free to grab that. Take another minute or two if you like, but again, keep it simple. Welcome. Had a couple new people just pop in. Just a quick note on the screen here for you. Everyone's saying hi in the chat. Happy birthday to the Cancers in the room, and almost birthday to the Leos. We have a couple, someone's doing a little maybe preparation tonight for the Capricorn full moon on Sunday. Oh yeah, happy birthday, Kat. And some mixed feelings about writing. We do have a Leo sun and moon. Very cool. Some momentum with our journaling practice. Curious and want to learn more. Amazing. I'm so glad to have you all here and glad to have anyone who's watching the replay. I would also love if you could type in the chat if you already have a copy of the Tarot for Creative Spirits book. Can you type yes in the chat? And if you do not have a copy, can you type no? Just so I see how many people might need the information and how many people might not. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you for that info. If you already have the book, you'll have to hear some information about a book that you're already getting to know. I invite you, if you want to share in the chat what it's been like for you to work with the book as I'm talking about it. Let me just let you know what to expect while we're together tonight. So I'm going to introduce the book briefly, tell you just a little bit about it for folks who do not have it and who might be interested in it. And then we're going to learn a little bit about the Sun card, and then we'll do the journaling prompts for the Sun card that are in the book. We'll do that together, and I'll guide you through that one prompt at a time. There are 3 parts, 3 prompts. And then there'll be time to process and discuss. You know, you may find things that come up for you, realizations, feelings, and we'll have some time to try to like anchor that down or get support with anything. And then at the end of the call, toward the end of the call, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Creative Magic Collective, which is a group experience based on the book. It's for people who are working with the book. Because it's a big girl. There's a lot of juicy questions, and it's just easier and more fun when we do it together and you get more support. So anyway, I'll save that for later. And I will share a book discount with you, which you can use to buy a book for a friend or yourself, whatever you want. So if you have the book, please have the book, have a pen or pencil as well. And if you don't have the book, just some paper or your journal will be sufficient. And just a reminder, this is being recorded for the folks who signed up for the workshop, also our Patreon members and the folks who are in the Creative Magic Collective. All right, so here's the bit about the book. I created this book after working with tarot for 7 years and teaching about tarot and studying tarot and giving a lot of tarot readings. And my probably like the biggest single takeaway I've had in all of this work is that tarot is an incredible tool for creative people. It's incredibly supportive and creative. It looks intimidating at first, but it's actually very accessible, and it can help us do a lot of things if we work with it. It helps us build our intuition. It helps us see new pathways for solving situations or problems. It helps us see the story of our lives in a more meaningful way. I can't think of one downside to tarot. It's not that expensive. It doesn't take up a lot of room in your house. I probably am preaching to the choir, but this book is meant to kind of offer a way to get to know tarot on your own terms. And so it doesn't do that just by explaining the cards. There's instead a journaling and sometimes also a creative prompt for every card in the tarot. So you get to know tarot through your own inquiry. There are introductions to the major arcana and all four of the suits. So they each get like a full page, and they each come with a beautiful cover page illustration. So there's 5 sections in the book. Get a little setup for each section. There's also 33 additional tarot spreads at the back. So you'll get to prompt sometimes and find a note at the bottom that there's a tarot spread to help you get to know that card even more deeply. There are dozens of illustrated elements which you can color. Obviously, the cover is one of them, but there are more scattered throughout the book, and you'll also be creating some of your own imagery. Like here's one, and there's lots more. It was a real pleasure working with an artist to bring this book into even fuller life with some of the visual elements. And then there's lots of space and prompts that give you the opportunity to write, draw, or collage. I am not a visual artist. I really loved doing visual art on some level when I was younger, but I was like decent, but not great. I didn't really pursue it. But I think a lot of wonderful things can happen when we let ourselves, whatever our skill level, when we let ourselves kind of play around with imagery and create images, not just look at the images in the tarot cards. So there are some invitations to do that, to just be creative, be messy, be imperfect. And it's a choose your own adventure experience. So as I say in the beginning of the book, you can move through the book in whatever way you want. Some people pull a card at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of a session, and then they go to that prompt. Sometimes folks catalog cards they've been pulling, and they go back to one of the cards in a recent reading or a card that they pulled more than a couple times and do those prompts. So you can really work with the book however you want, and you can move through the prompts in any order. There's a couple folks in the Creative Magic Collective who are working through like a whole suit at a time. So it's really however you want to work with it. I created this because I wanted more people to have a way to get to know tarot and become more familiar with it on their personal terms in an embodied way. You're going to be pulling wisdom and insight and information out of yourself to connect with the cards. And that's what makes the learning more lasting and more accessible to you because it's coming from you. I also think journaling is powerful and magical. It's a way to get to know ourselves. And the more we know about who we are and what we want and what we don't want and what we're afraid of and what our values are and all of that stuff, the more we can empower and fuel our magic and just move through life in a way that feels more centered, in a way that feels more guided from ourselves and not from what the rest of the world is telling us. I also work as a creativity coach, and then I'm a tarot reader too. So the book and the prompts in the book are really centered around a lot of the questions that I ask my clients to help them figure out different things that are going on in their lives, different things that they're struggling with. So in one sense, this is like a great little encyclopedia for coaching yourself and kind of looking at your thoughts and figuring out what's helpful for you and what isn't. Like I said, the more you know yourself, the more you can be yourself. So that's the book we're working with. If you have the book, this is a reminder for you. If you're going to get the book, this is a set of suggestions to take your time, move at your own pace. Sometimes folks finish a prompt in 2 sessions. There's sometimes 3 or 4 questions in a prompt. So And sometimes you're asked like big questions. So take your time, only do what feels good in the moment. Meet the prompts wherever you are. Like if the question and the way it's being asked doesn't feel like it's jiving for you, just bring what you have or kind of change the question for yourself so it feels like you can get into it. I also created the book so that we can practice more non-linearity. We can wander and meander. We can, again, go slow, go at our own pace, move in a way that feels good for us. This is also a space to embrace imperfection, as I've said. Um, so yeah, it's a book for you. So if you're making art, if you're making an image, you get to do it in the way that feels good. And it's not hanging up on your wall. It's just a space for you to play and explore. So I think we get very caught up in perfectionist tendencies. And the book is intended as a way for you to kind of get more comfortable with imperfection in a good way. And it's also a place to practice just doing something however the hell you want to do it, like without any consideration for what someone else might suggest or recommend for you. So that's the book. And now let's get into the sun. Any questions about the book really quick? Any thoughts? Perfect. So let's move into the sun. Let's see. So this is the little introduction that I've written to this card. After we journey through the shadowy arena of the moon, the previous card, we emerge with a childlike appreciation for all that's here. We remember what it was like to feel young and small and full of life, enchanted by a world full of wonder and discovery. The sun is our love for this world and for life itself, particularly the unadulterated, visceral joy we find, return to, and reclaim after we have come to know the depths of life's suffering. Yet we are still here and willing in new ways to make the most of it, to soak it all up, give it all away, and fall in love with life again and again. So this is the image here from the Smith Rider-Waite deck, and we have a very young human, I think the only child we see in the major arcana, on the back of a horse with this big, bold orange red flag waving, and the sun directly behind, looking serious but beaming a lot of light in our direction. The child is wearing this crown of what looks like flowers and then sunflowers all behind. And I'll read the next little piece of this introduction. The famous tarotologist and filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky wrote this about the sun in his book, The Way of the Tarot. And it's a really interesting book. I like the sections on the major arcana because there's a section where Jodorowsky writes from the persona of the card itself, like if the card were speaking. And for the sun, the voice of the sun says, I am ceaselessly renewing myself. By consuming myself, I give my heart to every blade of grass, every animal, and all living things without exception. It is fine with me if you call it love. So I'm just gonna let us think on that quote and invite you in the chat, or you're welcome to come off mute to share any relationships you have with this card, any associations or meanings you ascribe to the sun, or anything that's coming up for you just as you look at it today. What else about the sun that I haven't shared? Any thoughts? Okay. I love the joy in these descriptions since outside of tarot, I think of sun, heat, summer as overbearing. Yes, I think so too. Yeah, I chose this card for this time because we are feeling a lot of sun energy. And depending where we are, depending how climate change is affecting our area right now, um, probably a lot of us in this room have a memory of summers being maybe more mild than they feel these days. Yeah, so the sun feels a little more daunting at the summertime and maybe more than it used to. It's such a gorgeous, heartening card. And I say that as someone who is not a fan of the real life card. Sorry, real life sun. Yes. Similar feelings. It reminds me of the day creatures come out to feed, and many need help now with simply getting water. Yeah. Yeah, the sun is what's the word I want? It's the source of life in a lot of ways here on Earth. Like without it, there would not be life, there would not be the dynamism that we experience. All of the plant life that makes our planet green relies on the sun. But I also learned the other day that the melting of like Earth's ice under climate change is causing the Earth to slow its rotation. So the days, like the full spin that the Earth does in a day, is getting longer, very by trace amounts, but that's happening. So just think about that, like being exposed to even more sunlight in a full day long period. Actually doing a trail ride on Sunday, so I'm really connecting to the joy of horses. Beautiful. Yes. Okay. Good. So yeah, here maybe we get an opportunity to work with the energy of the sun, kind of bring back some of that joyous feeling, that playful feeling that we get with the sun card, that we might remember from less hot times. Here's a few different versions of the sun. This one comes from the Mini Queens Tarot. We see very similar child on a horse. This is the Gentle Tarot, where we have two female figures dancing back to back under both of these suns look quite gentle and loving. Some blue bonnets growing. And again, another child figure here, really close up, and surrounded by these really vivid flowers, looking up at the light of the sun. Let's see, we have something else in the chat. I once discussed this card with my therapist. I've tended to be an overgiver. Something in the quote resonates with that. The sun ceaselessly shining and giving, sometimes in an oppressive way. In tarot, I find the sun card positive, but in real life, it can be a bit much, in Texas at least. Yes. So, all right. I actually want to take us forward. I'm going to offer this now, and then we'll come back to it. Oh no. I wanted to show the progression of the sun, or where the sun sits in the progression of the major arcana. And so it comes quite late. There are 22 cards in the major arcana, and this is number 19. And it starts with 0. So the final card, the world, is card 21. So this is 2 cards before the end of the story of the major arcana. And this should be the moon. Sometimes Canva does this. If I don't refresh it, it doesn't hold the image. But let's look back to the tower, where things are starting to fall apart. And this is archetype 16. So already a lot has happened in the major arcana. And we're getting to the end of, no, we're coming into the final line of the major arcana. And as I show in the book real quick, There's a way to lay out the major arcana where the Fool goes right here, and then the cards go in ascending order 1 through 21, like this. And so we're down here on this final line. This is a way to look at the story from a couple different angles and kind of see how the progression moves. And so this is the final line, and we're getting into this is the devil, this would be the tower, this is the star, the moon, the sun. So we're like right down here. So in the tower, things are kind of falling apart, blowing up, things are getting deconstructed. Some kind of illusion in life, or some kind of false thing, or some kind of empty vessel is starting to fall apart. And obviously, that's scary for us as things change. But then we get into the space of the star where things are much more balanced because this was taken apart. So the figure here is unclothed, out in nature. There's no edifice like there is in the tower. The stars are shining bright overhead. There's lots of light here in this card. There's going to be light in the moon card, and then we have light in the sun card. But there's this balancing, this equanimity as the star figure pours water onto the land and the earth. So there's this like rebalancing that comes after a big kind of explosion. But then the moon shows up and kind of plunges us down into some strange landscape. Like, well, we went through all of this stuff. Now we're prepared to really get into some subconscious material and maybe look back at what happened and what's changing, and really kind of dealing with the strangeness of the mystery. And then after that, then we get to the sun. It's like we've dealt with so much and reclaimed a lot. And so here in the sun, we really get back in touch with the the juicy, delicious part of life. Like, you know, maybe we've been feeling like we've just been getting peach pits or like rocks and stones, but now we're really getting to eat ripe fruit. We get to remember something about who we are, who we've always been, who we were as children. And even though we've been through all this difficult stuff, we get to kind of reconnect with this joyful essence that came with us into life. Let's see if any of these cards showed up. Yeah, so again, one is missing, but if you look forward, we have the sun, this like reclaiming of the joyous self, the playful self, the self that wants to beam good things into the world. And then that prepares us for the spiritual awakening of the judgment card, which prepares us for the big integration and like perspective elevation that comes in the world card, which should be here. That is the final card in the major arcana. So I just wanted to kind of bookend it for us as we go back and get ready to start writing. Any questions about that? Any added thoughts? Okay. I'm going to do this prompt with a little bit of guided visualization. You know, if you're working with the book, you would be just looking at the paper and kind of contemplating this, but I'm going to give us a few minutes to get in touch with the question, the kinds of things the questions are asking. So if you're willing, I invite you to kind of settle back just for a minute. Maybe close your eyes if you feel like it. I'm going to guide us through these questions, and then you'll get to see them again and work with them. So just start to relax your body, use your breath to bring a little bit more ease into your shoulders, into your neck and head and your face. You could maybe move your neck from side to side if you want to. Letting the breath expand in your chest, letting your chest get big, back, front, and side to side. Now letting your breath fill up your belly gets soft and full. Let it relax. And then using a few breaths to send some ease, some relaxation into your arms, to your legs, to your hands and your feet. Right. As we've kind of settled into our body and our inner world, I'm going to invite you to invite your inner self, your higher self, your young self, your multitudinous selves, to bring forward a time when you felt playful, alive, exuberant, just really thrilled to be on the planet. It could be a very small moment, it could be a longer experience, but just bring to mind a time when you felt really glad to be alive. As this moment or this time starts to reveal itself to you, just pay attention to where you were when this happened. Notice what the world around you was like. Notice what else was happening outside of you. Are there other people around? How is the weather? Are there things that are moving? What sounds do you hear outside of yourself? And then see if you can connect with the sensations, the feelings you might have been having just at the very surface of your body, on your skin. Maybe what was the temperature? Was there a breeze or water or physical touch? How do you think your skin was feeling in this moment? Maybe see if your skin can have that feeling right now. And then go a little deeper inside yourself and be curious about what was happening for you internally. What might you have been thinking based on what was happening? What might you have been feeling? Were there any realizations you might have had in this moment? Do a few more breaths to just be in this space, be in this time, be with yourself, see if anything else emerges. And then when you feel ready, start to connect back with how your skin is feeling now. How it feels to be in your space, in your body at this moment. And then maybe with your fingertips resting somewhere on your body, give a little squeeze, reconnect with yourself in the present moment, and begin to open your eyes when you're ready. As you come back, you might just look around the room a little bit, maybe stretch, do any movements that feel good. And just going to start writing about what came up for you. So all the questions I asked are here in front of you now. And in the book, this question gets almost a full page, maybe like 3/4 of a page. And it looks like this, but you use whatever space you need. I'm going to give us about 8. I'm going to give us 8 minutes to start. And I'll check back in with you at that point. Let me know if you have questions. It's been about 6 minutes, just letting you know if you're already finished and waiting to move on, feel free to drop an emoji in the chat or take a couple more minutes. It's 8 minutes now, so maybe begin to write one of your last one or two sentences. And when you feel complete, if you'll put an emoji in the chat. Thank you for that sun emoji, Estella. All right, we are at 10 minutes. So I'm going to encourage us to move on to the next prompt. You could save a little space if there's anything else you feel needs to get written down for this first prompt. And if you don't have the book, feel free to screenshot this image if you want it. All right. Our next part, our next question is, what does this memorable moment tell you about what matters to you and what holds meaning for you personally? So if this was a moment when you felt incredibly alive, what were some of the contributing factors? Like, what are some of the things you need in order to feel that way? What sparks you to really feel that connection to life and maybe a connection to playfulness, to a little bit of innocence, to that like openness where we feel like we can just be who we are. So let's take 5 minutes for this question. And I will start us off now. It's been 4 minutes now, so maybe look for a place to wrap up in the next minute or so. And if you'll put an emoji in the chat when you're ready, that'd be great. All right. I like these, it's kind of a desert cowboy like theme coming up in the emojis. We've got a cactus and a hare and a horse, sun. I love it. So I'm gonna set us up for the next prompt, but you can work on this one for another moment as you like. So our final piece is to adorn part of your page or part of your journal or the book itself in a sunny way. So you can cut out things and start placing them as a collage, or you can just color and bring different colors together to give an impression. I'll show you for folks who don't have the book, like this is what I ended up doing. So this part is already in the book and you can color it if you want to. And then in this space, I just cut out a few elements, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 little pieces. And there's a sun here. Um, not a groundbreaking work of art, but it's just a time to like play and create in the theme, in the spirit of the sun. And just to give you like another option or sense of what you can do, this is the prompt for the star card where it asks you to create like a star-like image. So I was just like coloring lines. So keep it simple, keep it doable for yourself. I'm going to give you, I'm going to give us 8 minutes to start. So it says 10. And if you finish before that, if you feel like you're waiting, go ahead and put an emoji in the chat when you're ready. So just do it however you want. Make it easy, have fun. Think about the sun. All right. It's been about 8 minutes, and I think you can keep creating or drawing as we talk. I want to make sure there's plenty of time for folks to share or get support. So you can, yeah, multitask a little bit. Um, Before we get to that, there's maybe one question I wish I had put in these prompts, even though that was a handful already. But I think it would be nice to consider and maybe something to think on as you leave this gathering tonight, maybe as you continue creating. What could you emphasize or add to your life today to cultivate more of the energy that you connected with in your recollection and in the image you created? Having kind of touched into this energy or this feeling on a couple different levels, is there anything you could add or do or kind of bring out internally that might help you stay connected to this energy a little bit more, especially when we're feeling the intensity of the sun? We're feeling a lot of like agitation and heat, literally, but also in like the reality that we perceive. There's a lot of, I know I'm having dark thoughts about the future. So it's a little bit harder, I think, right now to feel joyous, but that's why it might be good to ask ourselves this question. So if you want to, you could take a screenshot of this slide if you like, if that's something you want to consider or journal about. Could be interesting just to see what your brain comes up with. All right. So yeah, I wanted to actually I reloaded I reloaded this. So now you can see the moon, you can see the full progression from the tower to the star. It's kind of interesting. We have two more towers, but they're here in the distance. We're kind of like looking at them from uh this remove of the animals, it's kind of primal energy. And then we come out into the radiance of the sun. And then just so you can see it here from the sun to the judgment card to the world, definitely like some cooling energy over here and still more nudity. It's like we just finished with no clothing. So I'm just noticing that for the first time. So I just wanted you to be able to see that. But yeah, think about what came up for you, what you've noticed, your willingness to share any observations or discoveries, I imagine will help others. So I'm going to take us off share for just a second. You're welcome to unmute yourself or type something in the chat. I'm wearing a sun tarot card earring that my sister gave me. You can't really see it super well. There it is. There's a moon too, but I'm wearing this other one that's made out of a porcupine. Some fun facts.
I wanted to mention that initially it was a little bit hard, right? Because we were talking about how hard sometimes and harsh that sun energy was. But during the meditation, and he asked us to maybe focus on one event or one moment where we felt that. I realized that there was actually a lot more than one. And that kind of, yeah, it kind of helped me like feel a little bit more grounded and more like, okay, yeah, not every day is like this, but there are those, and they're more frequent than we might acknowledge on a daily basis. Yeah, so I kind of feel like that this practice of coming back to the journal, coming back to the book, that has been a consistent thing that helps me realize that, to help me process. Yeah, and this definitely, I love the collage part. I love doing that after having those thoughts and bringing it out to the pages. It was very lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Violetta. Violetta is the reason there is space in the book for collaging. She did an earlier version of the book and a group connected to it, and she was using her own journal as everyone was, because there wasn't enough space to write in the book. And she was making, yeah, like collages and imagery. And I was like, oh, well, we should all be playing around a little bit more, even though mine never look like Violetta's, but it feels good to do. And Violetta, I appreciate you saying that, because that's part of what I hope will happen, is that some of these questions help us get in touch with things that are true for us, but that are not sitting at the surface of our mind all the time, and take us to thoughts and realizations and things that we know that feel empowering and supportive. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of bad things to focus on. There's a lot of things that are not looking great right now, but we're still finding ways to be joyous and to connect with people. And life is going to give us many instances of that. And so, like, how can we be open to it, or even help, like, nudge it up for us and for others sometimes when we feel that we can? Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, I'm interested, since a lot of us were describing this feeling of the harshness of the sun and being in the middle of summer with, like, still maybe the hottest part to come, and like getting connected to that sun energy, while also trying to look for maybe the sweeter part. So, yeah, any other? Kat, I see you came up. And then
Um,
Estella will go to you right after that.
I just wanted to say it really struck me while I was writing how much my moment that came to me was the first time I went to Burning Man, and the very first like half hour I was at Burning Man, which was just like I didn't know what I was doing. There was this huge dust storm. I had just driven from Yellowstone, where I'd also had way too exciting of experiences, and this was way too scary and weird, and nobody could give me directions or I was going anywhere. I finally just left my car somewhere and wandered through this huge dust storm, found where I needed to be. And this man appeared, this very clean man, because we were now under a shelter, almost naked, with a boa and a platter of Pimlico sours, and said, "Please take one." And I was like, oh, like something just clicked. It was what I'm trying to say is, what astonishes me is that it's so much like those cards. It was so much the tower. It was so much the moon. It just broke down everything in me. And then I was ready to be like, oh, this is amazing. This place is amazing. This is magical. And then all the magical things I saw and a big collage of those. But it really made me realize how much both art, like other people's art, is important to me, but also how much that breaking down process, which sometimes happens through the art, if that kind of art, but just that, like anything I can do like daily to just like break myself out of like my ruts and my comfort zone and my safety places, because when you're just out there exposed and then you see something beautiful, oh my god.
What an awesome story. I could see it all unfolding. And this man, it was like a Mad Max. And then this, like, man
Yeah, it is like Mad
emerges.
Max. And the reason I haven't gone back to Burning Man, I've been like 4 times now, but I'm not going back this year because 2 of the years I've been there were the 2 hottest years they had, and it
Yeah.
was too much. It was too much. The sun was too much.
Yeah.
But the metaphorical sun is very present as well.
Yeah. And yeah, what a great story. Thank you for sharing that. And I love what you said about, like, things needing to be broken down. Well, for one thing, like, realizing, oh, art is one of the things that keeps me sunny, so that can hold a clue to, like, what we can add or what we can bring in to kind of stay connected to the joyous part. And then, yeah, the importance of things breaking down. It's like we have to kind of get into the suffering part to also have the appreciation and the sweetness part. Like if it was always sunny, like we can't be that. We have too many feelings, you know, like the things falling apart is what helps us appreciate what's here. And that's one thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if you've ever seen this meme. It's actually an index card that says there's a big circle. There's a little circle that says where the magic happens. It's like a Venn diagram, and a big circle that is not touching it that is called your comfort zone.
Yes.
I mean, I really think you have to, yeah, which is easier when you're a kid.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because now we kind of see what's going on. We've had enough sun shining on like what's going on that it's
and we've built all our things. This is my thing and this is how I do it. And yeah.
It's like the tower, like we become this like one thing and we forget that we're actually very many, many things. Thank you, Kat.
Thanks.
How about you, Estella?
This was so delightful. Thank you, Cecily, because I think I really did feel negatively about the idea of the sun and then therefore the card of the sun. And I think I always just thought of it as just harsh and very masculine feeling. And then the prompts made me think of other seasons where I do adore this, you know, in the winter time, if I'm cold, because I live in the Northeast, like those sunny days are the best days. And so, and then it was great that you had suggested collage materials because I happened to grab just a thing of paper and it was a bunch of kids stuff in it. So I found all these like very like sweet suns compared to like the sun I was thinking about, you know. But through the meditation, I realized how important hope is for me. And as you said, like the current situation in the world makes it very hard. And I think also I'm at a point in my motherhood where my daughter is a teenager and I have a lot of fear for her instead of like hope for her. And I don't want to give that to her. So I'm glad to have that recognition right now. That worry sense instead of like excitement about things to come. So it's interesting. I don't know how to cultivate that. I loved that question that you brought up. Like, how do you cultivate that, especially within the context of everything that's happening in our world today? But I do know that more positive action comes to make positive change when I am feeling hopeful, rather than letting myself being brought down by reality, really. That's what I think, you know, or by the negative parts of it anyway. So it was a very good reflection. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I love what you said about hope. And yeah, I mean, we see a lot of like cliche stuff about hope sometimes, but like it's really, we need it. We're gonna need it. And we're gonna need to show younger people what it can look like, or just create space for them to like have it and to join them in it too. So thank you. Is there anyone else with a burning desire to share? All right. Well, maybe some of you are still making a little art, and I love that. We're just gonna finish up with a little information about, you know, if you liked this tonight, if this was helpful to you, if it felt supportive, if it felt different, then you may want to know about these things. If you did not like this, then you may not be interested. But I just want to let y'all know that one of the reasons I created the Creative Magic Collective is so we could do some of this work together, so we could share stories, like Kat shared, we could share memories that come up for us, like Violetta did. We can share like these realizations about where we are in the moment and how we can kind of choose to move forward, as Estella did, and really feel this, this digs deep. Like the questions aren't meant to like overload you or to always be super serious. Like I didn't want that, and I hope that's not true, but we are getting real with ourselves sometimes. So it just feels really nice to have other people's reflections and other people's company and other people's stories as we do this really interesting work. So that's why I created the Creative Magic Collective, which you can become a part of. And what happens when you join is you get journaling sessions twice a week that are 30 minutes each on Zoom. And they're not like these where I guide us through a single prompt. Like you could imagine how it might be difficult to do 2 of these a week. But we get together, we check in, I turn on some music, we work on whatever we're working on in the book for 25 minutes, and then we check in a little bit at the end. And even though it's just 5 minutes, that's a really sweet space where a smaller set of the group gets to like share interesting things. There's a lot of beautiful discoveries that happen in those 5 minutes. And then there's also a monthly group support call that's it is 90 minutes. So every month we come together as a group and we really just focus on what you want support with, what's coming up for you. So what you experience tonight is a little bit of like a love child of the monthly support call and the journaling session, but you're gonna get them in the collective, plenty of opportunities to be in community. And there's no expectation that you come to like all the journaling sessions. They're just there because my theory is that like, if you commit to popping into more of them, you'll probably do more writing and more work in the book than if you didn't. Or if that's true for you, then it's meant to help you. You also get free seats in all upcoming typewriter tarot workshops. I'm going to tell you about one of those in a second. And you get access to the full library of workshops, like all the stuff I've created over 7 years. So workshops on the suits of the tarot, each of the different suits. I have workshops on creativity and writing that blend tarot. I just released, there's a whole series on tarot for your novel, if you're a writer. So you get all that stuff. We also have a shared community space online on Mighty Networks. And I have lowered the price because I want this price to be like a no-brainer price for y'all. Like, wow, I get all this stuff for just $5.55, which you can make in 2 payments. And I'm now allowing like everyone who's already in the collective gets to stay for as long as they want and as long as the collective is open. And that'll be true for new people who join as well. You also get a one-on-one session with me. So if you're interested in checking this out, I think I come to that in just a moment. Yeah, if you're curious, you can schedule a curiosity call. You and I could just get on Zoom for 30 minutes and we can talk about, I can answer any of your questions. You can talk about what's going on with you. We can see if it's a good fit. And I'm going to put a link in the chat where you can find that. You can also, if you want to, attend one of our journaling sessions and just see what it's like. See how it feels, if it also feels good, then yeah, then you'll know. I'm trying to find the chat, but my computer's being kind of weird. There we go. Yeah, so this page will take you to the Creative Magic Collective. Let me know if you have any questions about it while I share with you a discount on the book. You can save 20% off your copy with the discount code right along Sun. So that's in the chat for you as well. And then in case there's anyone who's kind of new to typewriter tarot, I just want to let you know that through our emails, you'll get more information. We have a Patreon membership that you can join for just $6 a month, and it also gets you free seats in all of our workshops. The workshop the next and Creative Covens. Creative Coven are now part of Patreon membership after the one that we're doing in July. And you get the recordings of Creative Coven. You always have a seat there. And then in August, I'm going to start a workshop series called Animals of the Tarot, where we're going to look at some of the creatures that show up in the tarot, like that horse that we saw in the sun and what that could represent. And some of our relationships to these animals and the ways that humans have symbolized animals and also lived with animals or connected with animals, particularly the ones we see in the decks. So if you're interested in that, you can become a member. There are other like great benefits. You can check it out. I'll put that link in the chat. And I also offer tarot readings, which you can find on our website. I'm a creativity coach as well. And then this is the podcast, Your Creative and Magical Life, where I'm doing interviews right now that are connected to the different major arcana cards. So we just published the Hermit episode, and there's also some shorter episodes that are meant to help you like connect some of what's talked about with your own creative practice. So there's other stuff going on if this kind of felt like your vibe. And I'm just really glad you came out tonight. If you're kind of new, I'd love to hear more from you in the future. And it looks like we have 2 minutes. I've actually finished 2 minutes early. That almost never happens. Anyone have anything else they want to share? Any questions? All right. Well, I think and I hope you know where to find me. And so good to be with you. Thank you for coming out. I hope you're maybe collaging a little more into the night over there and enjoying a little more of the sweet sun energy in your life over the next few months. We're gonna need it. So hold on to it. All right. Good night, everybody. If you want, you could come off mute and say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. This was great.
Thanks, y'all.